Okay, hi. What are we on? Are we on week 24? How can I forget? Let me double check for a second here. Let me say that I need to write to David Lynch, and I'm not sure that he'll be happy to hear from me, but I really owe that guy, Freemason or not. I'm going to close out the Gemini experience. I'm just going to double check that I'm actually on the right week. Yeah, week 24. Good. Okay, we're getting there. Let me explain this a bit because it hit me between the eyes. He brings in the movie Twin Peaks. I'm not going to spoil anything. I'm not going to go off story, but he brings in blue rose as a signal. Now the thing is ever since I cleaned for, there's Karina. That's me in a blue ball that was sent to me across the river next to my home as a signal because I follow that color blue. This is Jazz. As of tomorrow, back a few years ago, Jazz was taken off life support after being on it for a few days. It's Colette. Colette died in Indian Head, Saskatchewan, I believe, hit by a drunk trucker. Left behind several children. I cleaned for her mother-in-law, and she appeared to her 3-year-old. Her 3-year-old was found hugging her in spirit, leaning at a 45-degree angle forward in his bedroom. And his dad, my client's son, said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm hugging Mom." But this is Jazz, and tomorrow, same as Steve Irwin Day, and right now I know Diana didn't, Princess Diana, Lady Diana didn't die right away. I won't trigger you with too much information there that you might not want to handle. But Jazz was strangled. Her mom and her aunt almost got to her in time, but they were kept away from her by her boyfriend's mother, and the bedroom door that was locked from the wrong side. Her boyfriend was involved in, and his mother, I'm sure, were involved in drugs. The cops did not secure the scene. They arrived, an ambulance came, but they did not secure the scene, and they did not investigate or bring anybody to justice. And I cleaned for her aunt Carolyn in 2018. But how I came into that story was Karina's favorite color is blue. And I told her mom, Tracy, my best friend, that I would keep an eye out for blue. And if I saw it, I would photograph it and send it to her because I knew it would be a message from Karina. And the first place ever and Karina was murdered in 2017. First place I ever saw blue was in 2018 in Carolyn's home, Jazz's aunt's home. And I saw this blue rose. This is a photo that Carolyn took of it to send to me when I asked her for a photograph of it to send to Tracy. I have my own photo of it, but I think that got destroyed in a phone of mine that got destroyed. I'm not sure that I might have a copy of it somewhere, but I wanted a legit copy, a legit photo from Carolyn, and so I ended up I have messages between me and Carolyn with me telling Carolyn the story of the rose, the story of the color blue, and Carolyn telling me that it was her favorite color. And it was on a table in her living room. And I felt inclined to message her on September 4th, back in 2018, not knowing why. I just needed to send her a lot of love that day. And it ended up being the day she told me. She's like, well, today is I wanted to message her on the 3rd. And I held off a day because I felt a bit odd about it. And it turned out to be the day that they took Jazz off life support. And so it's been a couple of years since I've kept her updated. She doesn't know how big this got, but I did end up tying the color even into Sloan Bella's search for information for her son's death. In the group, I've since left it just to give her some space because I gave her way too many answers. But I'm telling people in the group because we started linking the color to everything. So of course, then it shows up when I'm not expecting it in David. Now this has everything to do with Gemini. This has everything to do with Aquarius that we're heading into. Information that you know and what you do with it, right? Who you are. The stunning, staggering similarities between the victim Laura Palmer in Twin Peaks and many of the victims. Of course, I'm not one, but these are just some. This is Mallory. I'm with her grandmother every other Wednesday. This is Gina that I went to school with. Very close friends with my childhood friend Sarah, that has factored into these videos before. But and she was violently murdered a few years ago. And my last day, my second last shift at the fabric store, her mother came in with Gina's daughter, young. She was Gina. I think her daughter was about 12 at the time, maybe not quite. And I was able to pass on a message from Gina to her daughter. Her mother's best friend was one of my main customers, one of my regulars. And so life has just brought me. So now I need to find out, in addition to all the other ties that bind me to the Twin Peaks through my history, my personal history of having been in the area at the time that they were filming it, right after my mother died. Also, they link to South Dakota. They feature South Dakota prominently in later episodes in the film. And that's where I spent a lot of my time, or pivotal moments in my childhood. So, of course, the Masonic ties to blue roses. Blue is a secrecy color. They tie it to Jesus as well. But apart from all the other signaling. So there's something huge that ties me in many, many ways from beginning to end. And I'm not actually sure I could explain my life without Twin Peaks and the information in it. It connects way too many dots. So that's just a little overview that I do. Even going back to my unhappy days in Girl Guides, because of course David Lynch was an Eagle Scout, big fan of, well, God knows what that guy's been through, because he was the troop of scouts that were the ushers at JFK's inauguration. So you don't get to be an usher without going through some crap as a child at that level. If you go into David Schroeder's work and Fiona Barnett's, their stories as victim survivors of MK Ultra. Yeah, you're not just any kid if you're one of the ushers at well, and then David's transcendental meditation, that is basically, well, David went and talked about the unified field theory, the unified field being proven when it's still in fact a theory, and CERN is really still trying to, against maybe all our best wishes, trying to solve it. So yeah, there's a certain amount of snake oil, but the shows are, David Lynch's work is phenomenal. So my kid and I are totally lost in it. So this is where we start. One thing I wanted to get into that ties it together as well. This is back in 2010. I was the Penthouse of Gemini. I have ties to New York through my mom. My mom studied voice as an opera singer in New York. I was there on my way back from Egypt. Did I go? Apparently. Oh yeah, no, one of those is for Minneapolis. and one of those is coming back through New York. So I'll pause. I actually started off me with the pigtails. Tiffany, my she was so cool. God. But anyway, I started off a daisy actually in my first year. Can't get it closer than that. And there's a whole PEO order, the daisy chain. They call it the Marguerite. And when we get into the story of Faust, Marguerite is the... I'm going to sound really Masonic for a while for my level of nerddom around details, but this is the game we're caught in. Don't worry, I won't go too long into this. We'll get into, but this is how we transition from Gemini to Aquarius. Okay, the idea of the going from the penthouse to the hostel, but and the information and what you do with it. Right, 3rd house and 11th house. And my 11th house starts in the whole house system starts in the 4th. So very much tied to my ancestral roots. This is what I find out as I tackle the first week of Aquarius, which I finished. But I was a daisy, and so the daisy chain, and Marguerite is the female figure in Faust, where Faust does a deal with the devil, conjures the devil, does a deal with him, signs a contract, right? And it's all he's brokenhearted over Marguerite. So their daisy, they use the word Marguerite. And there is, so the PEO, philanthropic something, philanthropic, I gotta find out what the E stands for, order. And it's a female order of Masons around the world. And the daisy chain is their emblem, right? Marguerite chain. PEO, and I ended up going to PEI. I ended up very destined to move to UPEI, to go to UPEI, University of Prince Edward Island, and that's where I had my son, Alex. So, again, another thing I've done that they got me to do is I was looking up, see, Laura Palmer in, I'll just keep it on this for a second. Laura Palmer in Twin Peaks is a Wicker Man story. Yes? The best of them all. Brilliant, brilliant. And Laura Palmer, it's all very Arthurian, and Laura Palmer is definitely the Lady of Shalott, which ties in Anne Shirley in Green Gables, reenacts the Lady of Shalott. It's a very overused storyline, right? But it's a theme that they have running through my life as well. When I first was going to teach drawing, my first day of teaching my own drawing program, I woke up in my waterbed that had burst. So I woke up in a Lady of Shalott pose, basically sinking in my own bed. Not that it was a danger, but it really was not pleasant. And I meant to mention last week, they brought a storm to me. I knew that it's time to be teaching drawing again because they created a huge leak in my toilet and a leak in my shower, and my bathroom had to be completely, well, thank God, not completely overhauled. They fixed it within an hour, but multiple things went wrong all at the same time. And so I knew that that was definitely an indication that it's like, not that it's go time, but that it's definitely one of the things I'm supposed to be doing. It's the hardest thing I do. It's the hardest work, teaching drawing. And it's the thing that I've put off for several years while I gather what I need to go back into it the way it needs to be done, with enough of the answers, right? And so at this point I can say I think they really have sent me off and helped me gather up basically as much of all the answers as I could possibly hope to get in one lifetime. And I think I can pretty much tie up the world events all together at this point. Of course, with broad strokes, yes? But, so the idea of one thing, I needed to figure out how to transition from Gemini to Aquarius, from the penthouse to the hostel. And there are a few final thoughts that I had about Gemini. And of course we were going to cram stuff in because it's all about what you know. But Hermes and radio towers. The idea of the penthouse, the idea of the penthouse being up, being elevated, being the highest point. Are the pyramids transmitters? Yes, probably, right? Like, what's the point of... Now, the penthouse started out as a unique New York thing, hence the New York. Because it started in New York, they needed to convert dead space in a building to make money off of it, because nobody was actually attracted to living in the penthouse level of a building. But then they turned it into a chic thing, I think in the 20s basically. Once you had elevators, when they brought in elevators, then it became a practical thing. And so we're going to use the elevator energy to get us in part to the hostel, because we're going to go down. I think we came from the embassy, Libra's embassy, by plane, heavily protected, under attack, land on the top, and come into the penthouse through a helipad, basically. So now the idea of descending and experiencing, but the transmission from the top, if it's like a radio, if it's a receptor and a transmitter, yes, and there actually are, like once you get into the idea of, and the fact that Gemini don't really like to write, it's getting too much information down that in a permanent way, that's too flux, but they're actually, if you get into this at all yourself, you don't even need me to mention it then, but Hermes and radio, because Hermes of course is Mercury, right? And absolutely there's totally, because there would be. So there. What else did I... There was something else. I also found out, now let me pause while I also took some time to get into colors, and there is no consensus for what colors go with what signs the best. I like this wheel. It speaks to me in some of the matches. I tried to figure out who made it. I can't. I got it from a men's stylist website, Enzo League, but they don't link, like when you try to source their image, that I can't find so far I can't find a credit for it. But in that search, another thing about Gemini, absolutely, when we get into the commerce angle of it, there is a huge Gemini crypto name, and it's got all of these big bads involved. Regulated crypto native exchange and custodian offering a full spectrum of turnkey cryptocurrency products and services. So absolutely they're calling on that magic. You might already know about them, but I found that. I don't even think I was looking for that. I was looking for something else. While I was looking for the colors, what I did find was a wonderful website, really quite incredible. A couple of them. Oh, great. Now, Plants and Planets is the name of the blog. plansandkunst.wordpress.com. Wiebke Rost. Excellent work there, and she does her own photos of all the plants that are attached to planets, right? But then I also ended up on cura.free.fr, where somebody has done the tremendous scientific work of trying to come up with a color theory that's accurate to astrology, and then also matching, like comparing the periodic table to what is traditionally associated with the planets, and seeing how actually the periodic table actually confirmed and fulfilled the astrology, the connections between metals and the planets. So, but that also brought me, this totally crossed over with my work finishing up my drawing publication program for the program, in that this color theory refers to Goethe's work on color theory that I didn't yet have. And so thanks to this website, it really pulls so many things together that is such a good, you know, kick in the face for anybody that loves to dump on astrology and has no grounds for doing so. But I do have a history with Goethe, not, well, I guess personally at this point, but I have been, I had this very unique experience in Weimar where he wasn't born there, but he was in government there. But he did tremendous work with theory of colors, so I need to get my hands on that. And I can't believe that I actually haven't already been extremely well versed in it, but they kept that away from me because they wanted to tie it in this way through that person, because it was that important to get that connection through the astrology. Otherwise I wouldn't necessarily come across, well, I don't come across, but he in turn wrote one of the versions of Faust, which I was just talking about with the deal where Marguerite, and there we have her referenced. The first opera that my mom took me to that she was performing in was Faust. So I was 7, and that is how a lot of my larger worldview, I wouldn't say I bought into it, but no, it was an influence. And then we get into his poem about Prometheus, which is amazing, and an excellent Thomas Dorset has done a wonderful. So the other thing about Goethe is that he, let's see how, yeah, okay, this is how we tie Gemini into Aquarius. Ganymede is one of the stars of Aquarius, right? Ganymede is who Zeus fell in love with, the boy that was, yeah, well, let's say boy, that Zeus fell in love with, okay? And he is the cupbearer. So Zeus takes him up to Mount Olympus to be the cupbearer to the gods, you know, wink wink, nudge nudge, that's your day job. At night we'll have fun between the sheets. Well, hopefully Ganymede, you're okay with that. Hopefully you're attracted to me. Yeah, there's a slight age and power difference between us. But so Goethe brings together color theory, astrology, and Aquarius, and in his own way what I was tying up with Gemini through Faust. Faust also brings in, I was looking into the golem. That's another thing. So they've really had me, they've plowed into me so much, even past Lionsgate, that it's, you know, I'm digging myself out. Okay, I'm going to pause again for a second. Here's some results on that PEO sisterhood. Okay, featured on Jeopardy once upon a time. I'm going the wrong way. Pinterest has a lot. The Creed, see the daisy chain motif, founding women. And it's just bit by bit, you just keep finding out just exactly how many shapes, sizes, and flavors there are. Yeah. Unfortunately, Richard Pryor was in their clutches. Forget-me-nots. There's even a song called The Blue Rose, The Bright Blue Rose, and it's an Irishman that sings it, but he references forget-me-nots in the snow. And so basically, these are just things to know that there's a special ink that is the Israeli flag blue, and it comes from a certain snail, and it's very expensive, costly. Of course, the 31st being the first day that they started doing what they did to Diana. Took me back, I know this for several years now, that the wonderful John Morgan, I believe in Australia, possibly New Zealand. At the time, it was, I believe, a 10, 11, 12 volume book, set of books that he did on the cover-up of the inquest. But now I can only find, I'll go back to that, these 3 books. They killed him off. And France was calling me. France literally, can I find it easy? France actually called me the morning of, can I get it? I've got it dated down there, August 3rd, 31st. Let me see if I can get that to scroll a bit. No. So you can see the 1, but anyway. Well, if we look at, we can reference it by, it was Miss Z Tarot, 18 hours ago, Virgo, you're detaching from all that doesn't serve your purpose. Okay, so there's exactly, because my North Node is from Virgo. So that is where we can confirm the date time for that, right? France actually called me, and then it showed up in several different places, including a fleur-de-lis in Baba Jolie's message. But really, what happened was San Tarot, on the Tuesday, I went and listened to a reading from her while I was cleaning from a week previous, okay? Now, what's really amazing is that she caught me off guard back in June, and I've got it actually in my June diary, right? Here we have posts from her. Now here is a comment from me because she made mention. Now I can only match it up to the photos and her clothing, and the fact that, okay, so there were 95 comments there, but there are 97 comments by this part, and Diana died in 1997. So I went and matched up with the title. I went back to the same video. Okay. And it was, I don't know if I can, oh, why don't I zoom in here? Okay. Scorpio, all the unspoken stuff. So I have a comment there because she noticed that somebody's skirt was see-through. Little Miss and Miss Sunshine, and the Miss Sunshine card came through just this past week on the 31st. Okay, and so what I've done is I do these little photo collages because I can pull the stuff together, right? There's the one of my clients gave me, that Diana book. But I made a comment about Diana because Diana's when she was young, right, in her when they started featuring her during her engagement period, and she was holding the 2 little ones from her creche, yeah, and her skirt was light colored and see-through, and it was shocking, but everybody loved it, that the sun was shining through her skirt. So it was like a beautiful sexy, yes, virtuous sexy. But anyway, so very much on the 31st she came through again, or what I would say is my experience of her, through the same reader, same messages, curious. There's healing, wounding. She's describing Scorpio's relationship with dead people, well, murder victims. So there were things that happened again. So I kept track of that. What was also meaningful to me was that my main psychic connection, Gwendolyn McEwen, it was her birthday, September 1st. And references pulled everything together, plus that lucid dream that I had about the butterfly. And a lot of us are going through, many signs are going through butterfly, caterpillar, butterfly transformations right now, very painful stuff. But I keep Diana and Gwendolyn very close to me at my bed. And several things tied them together. Baba Jolie referenced no man's land, or no man. And other things that I'm missing, but I'm just, it's been quite the weekend, and or the week for, it's quite the time right now, I would say, for me and my murder victims. So how can I wrap this part up so we get more into, but this is all spiritual evidence, yes? And we'll get into a reading very shortly, because I don't think there's too much to bind. Carol Lindley, I owe a tremendous amount of gratitude to right now for helping to tie several things up that connect both Hampstead to Twin Peaks to everything else. Especially Susan. I need to thank Susan again, whose home I clean, well, whose brother's home I clean every other Saturday. I'll be there again tomorrow. And Susan connects me to Carol Lindley, which connects me to everything else. The green of memory. I'm going to be tying everything together, because here's how we go from what we know and what we do with what we know. There is, where do I have it? See, pages of, I tried to get visuals out so you can stick with me, but here I have my one book project out of my like 37 book projects now, but that they've got me working on. But Anne of Amsterdam, where I tie everything together, because now with Aquarius's hostel experience, did I fulfill Gemini's penthouse experience? Yes, I believe there are multiple things that come through that totally confirm Gemini as a penthouse habitat. I haven't necessarily pinned them all down. I've got them, but I haven't pinned them all down yet in the videos. But now moving into proving the hostel environment, the 8-star, right? Because Aquarius, the star card has 8 stars. But this green, everything happened for me. I started to wake up to everything Amsterdam at the Vondelpark Hostel. Now, it's not the hostel I've been thinking of at all. It's too close to the mark. It's too close to the target for me to think of it consciously when I'm thinking of Aquarius, the hostel experience. There's actually the Japanese hostel that I link to in the pages of this book that my kid showed me, because that's where he should be ending up. But I've traveled all through Europe. I've traveled many, Canada and the US in hostels. But it's just getting ready for this video is when I realized, oh my God, I'm an idiot. I went sleepwalking. In this hostel. And that's it started. Amsterdam messed with my conditioning. It messed with the mind control in my life. And I started to wake up from my mind control in Amsterdam. Now, here I've got Diana back on this page again. So, absolutely. Hey, Diana. Hey, Jazz. Hey, Steve Irwin. Steve Irwin, his death knocked me out for 3-4 days. I believe I had just started. When did he die? Gotta look that up again. Did he die exactly when I started teaching drawing? No. Can't remember 100% sure. No, it was a year or two before that. My son was in grade 1. That's right. So the year before. Okay. All right. Wait a minute. Yes. Okay. So I'm still in lawsuits then. Okay. So in terms of if we get into, no. Okay. Well, almost at where we are with the sun right now. But in terms of moving on from the radio to all the transmission, all the sales, into how to integrate basically in the world, but also problem solving. This is actually the page. Now, do I have this? Yeah, thank God. Sometimes, how often have I forgotten to change the focus? I ripped the page out where I went sleepwalking. This is my little journal that I did not faithfully stick to. But this is going back to 1995. I was 17, and here's where I arrived, and we were doing traveling at a breakneck speed. My dad got us, it was just he and I, and we went through about 10 countries in 3 weeks. Yeah, I guess I was humiliated by the experience, and then we were in Copenhagen the next day, where I was devastated by being very disappointed with the Little Mermaid statue. That's another MK Ultra moment. But this is just to show evidence of me there at that time. And this is yeah, that's my photo. Now, I only have photos of 4 of the hostels. I was not a very reliable photographer at the time. But there's proof of me. The hostel I stayed in Copenhagen was just outside Copenhagen, I believe, in this to the south of it. But Amsterdam is my go-to place. It's my repeat go-to place, as it is for many people. It wouldn't be the only place, but because I started waking up there, then it's, yeah. I love the lines of Amsterdam, but I realize it's all built off of slave money and ripping off India's economy, which is just not good, to say the least. And so we pull all things together. But yeah, my camera got stolen in Heidelberg at the Heidelberg hostel, my own fault. And so we switched cameras, but I lost all my photos of Berlin, Weimar. So my whole Goethe experience in Weimar, and then the second half of my Copenhagen experience, and we went up to Hamlet's Castle. Yeah, more Heidelberg, Luzern, but I stayed actually in the hostel in Zurich. Salzburg, stayed in the hostel in Salzburg, 2 nights. French Alps, Chamonix-les-Pèlerins. This is a hostel up there, so this is one of the hostels I think of. But I think Aquarius could actually be happy in multiple kinds of hostel environments. I don't know that it necessarily has to be fancy, but it probably doesn't hurt. But I stayed in a hostel in Paris. This is outside the hostel in Cape Clear, Ireland, where I named my son's middle name is named for Kieran. Then Cape Clear is named for St. Kieran, who was very good with animals. This is in Skibbereen, which is just outside, well, it's between the island of Cape Clear and you're heading between that and Blarney and Cork. And Cork I was stuck in for 3 days in Sheila's hostel. Love Cork. But I was meant to be stuck, Cork's over there that way somewhere, because I have so many ties that bind me that we've gone through already in this experience to Cork. But Belfast, I stayed in a hostel in Larne. My family, my great-grandfather was in Belfast, so here. Okay, so the Black Lodge in Canada, the Black Lodge is real in Twin Peaks, and in Canada you have to be a member of the Orange Lodge first before you can be, or you have to be a Grand Master probably before you can join the Black Royal Lodge. I'm not saying I'm impressed by this, okay? It just is. In America, I imagine if you want to be a member, it's probably you got to be a member, Grand Master of the Blue Lodge before you reach the Black Lodge, because I'm pretty sure the Black Lodge is beyond national borders. But the blue seems to be uniquely American. But Orange is definitely starting over between, well, it actually started in Northern Ireland in tribute to William of Orange. Well, the Orange started in the Netherlands as a French thing with the families, the royal families, yes. The lodge that we're dealing with now started in Northern Ireland. So, ties that bind, my family ties that bind. Sutherland, my Ross side of me is just north of Sutherland, tied to Sutherland. So I stayed in the hostel in Coleraine in Sutherlandshire, if that's the right word. Of course, most of my Scottish ties, and I'm mostly Scottish through Irish, but I'm a McLaughlin, and the McLaughlins are tied to the O'Neills through the name Laughlin. But I'm a Patterson as well, and Pattersons and McLaughlins come from Argyllshire, and that is shared with Kintyre. And I didn't know that when I named my 2 characters in Robert and Jennifer, my big novel book that Paul Gallico's got me writing. Paul Gallico of Poseidon Adventure, which ties me to Carol Lindley. But they are Argyllshire. Kintyre is Argyllshire. And Gwendolyn McEwen, that writer that it was her birthday on the 1st, the McEwens are also Argyllshire. And we are up against the Campbells, because Michael Aquino is a Campbell, if you look him up. And so I've been obviously pulled into an ongoing and righteous feud with them. So having stayed in this, my dad was determined to go and stay in this castle, which has been closed to public. It's not a hostel anymore. It's now up for sale, for private sale. And then I did not stay in a hostel in London, thank God. No, there's probably awesome hostels in London. The hotels that I stayed in, no. But of course, London is where a lot of my work, creative work, is centered. But that's that. That's in terms of where planets are right now. Now we have a new moon in Virgo coming up on the 7th. And apparently the 8th is extremely important because they put a big, I need to replace the cyan and the yellow in my inkjet, but they put a big black blot on the 8th. So I'm assuming that is launch day for the drawing program, is what I'm assuming. The sun, I think, is going to hit, I want to say Venus is going to hit sooner. And I'll spare you. Well, I shouldn't spare right now. I should get into it. I had screenshots. But let's just go into Stellarium and see where we're at. If it's a good time to look at that part of the sky. So there's Aquarius. Really interesting in Aquarius right now. With Jupiter. Look how close. Yeah, look at that. Just past the midpoint. So Jupiter's officially into Capricornus energy. And look at that. Like, what kind of energy is that? Right? Go Capricorn, go. I feel like superpower time for Capricorn. That's what I feel like. Now let's see. What direction are we going in? This is going to get murky because I think we're going, yeah, look. This is later tonight. This is Sky Safari. I might go to Sky Safari. Because now we've got... Now, I thought... Oh, wow. Venus is moving fast. Okay. So. No, I don't need the menu. Thank you. But thank you. Venus is right next to Spica. Yes. Look at that. Look at that. What kind of energy is that? Hmm? Still got a ways to go before we hit Libra. Okay. But where do we have Mars? That's what I was, yeah, I feel like if I can get them both on the screen. Now there's the last star for Leo. And there's the first star for Virgo. So we're basically, I want to say we are in the midpoint. So Mars is basically in Virgo at this point. Yeah. Sun is still, oh, there's Sun right at the second back, one of the back paws. Okay, let's get some perspective on that. But still a little ways to go. And where the hell did we put Mercury? Right, I bypassed Mercury, didn't I? Bad, Kristen. Okay, Mercury. What star is that? Zanaya? Oh, we just don't want to focus because it's too... If I get it darker. Oh, we just don't want to. Yeah, I think so. What does it say down there? Yep, Zanaya. Okay, so past there. Alright, Neptune's still back over with Pisces. Almost heading towards... What did I say? Moon. Oh, look at that moon. Look at that moon. Right near the beehive. Okay. Love it. Okay. All right. Oh, happiness. Uranus definitely busy making his way, her way, his way through, back through Aries. Not really wasting time there. Okay. Pisces. If we go way up here. Now we're not going to find Pluto in Stellarium because they canceled Pluto. But there we go. There's... No. No. Okay, let's give up on that. Okay, so that's where the energies are at now. So we have to modify our book to match that. Because I do believe, I don't know if Venus will be direct in Libra by the 6th. I really don't. Where you're at. Today is the 3rd. Mars is already direct into Virgo. So what we're going to do, going to do that. That's what we're going to do. Now I don't have the sun technically hitting Virgo till the 17th, and I wouldn't be surprised if sun hits Virgo sooner than that. Jupiter is already retro into Capricornus, so we're going to, I think I'm going to move that to even yesterday. Is what I think I'm going to do. So we're off by 2 weeks with Jupiter. But there, now we've got that done. Okay, so in terms of the work of the week. And look how I'm bad, and I still haven't finished up who's helping me in the 3rd house, because I'm getting there. I know it, but I just can't get it all down yet because of the drawing stuff, which is almost done, thank God. But 11th house. Let me get my head clear for a second about that, and then I'll go through it as efficiently as possible.